The galaxy, as usual, was serene, its silence uninterrupted. Stars shimmered faintly in the vast, unbroken expanse. Planets circled lazily around their suns, and life drifted onward in its infinite course through the endless void. Yet, far on a forgotten world, things had changed. A shift was occurring that would soon ripple through the universe. A discovery, one no one was prepared for, would soon unfold. This world was known as Zith, a dry, barren rock, void of life, desolate and silent. For centuries, no one had given it a second thought. Yet, for a group of explorers from another species, it had become a focal point. Their scanners had detected an anomaly on the far side of the planet, strange energy readings unlike any they had encountered before. Their initial assumption was that it was a mere natural event, but they were gravely mistaken. Captain Zarek, the leader of the expedition, surveyed the landscape from the front of the group. His crew had disembarked from their ship, now resting on the dusty, lifeless surface of the planet. They began to investigate the area. The air was thin, but the most overwhelming feature of the environment was the complete silence. There were no sounds, no breeze, no signs of life. Just the endless stillness of a world that seemed to have forgotten it ever existed. Zarek's mission was simple: investigate the source of the strange energy readings. It was a task he had completed countless times before, but something about this planet felt off. The hairs on the back of his neck stood on end as he pressed forward, an uneasy sensation growing within him. His crew shared his discomfort. The silence was unnerving, oppressive. After several hours of searching, a breakthrough came from one of the crew members, a young scientist named Lyra. She called out, her voice tinged with nervousness, "Captain, over here! You need to see this." Zarek rushed toward her, his boots crunching on the dry, cracked ground. He found Lyra kneeling by a large rock formation, scanner in hand. She had uncovered what appeared to be an ancient structure buried beneath the rubble. At first, it seemed like a pile of broken stone, but as they cleared away the debris, they found something far more surprising: strange carvings, intricate and delicate, carved into the surface of the stone. These symbols were like nothing they had ever seen before, unfamiliar to any known language in the galaxy. The markings faintly glowed, as if pulsing with a hidden energy, an eerie, living presence. The crew gathered around, their excitement mounting even as their uncertainty deepened. "What do you think it is?" Lyra asked, her voice filled with both awe and fear. Zarek examined the symbols closely. He had seen many ancient ruins in his time, but nothing like this. These markings weren't merely decorative. They were part of a much larger, more complex pattern. "I'm not sure," he replied, his voice quiet, "but it's not from any species we know. This is much older. Much, much older." The thought made his stomach tighten. There had been rumors, of course, whispers about ancient civilizations that had once ruled the galaxy, but most of those were dismissed as myths, stories passed down by races who couldn't imagine that anyone had once been greater than themselves. But Zarek had been in the galaxy long enough to know that sometimes myths were not just stories. They were warnings. As the crew worked to clear away more rubble, they uncovered something even more shocking: a doorway. It was partially concealed beneath the debris, but unmistakable. The door seemed to hum with a faint energy, as if it were waiting, dormant for millennia, for someone to awaken it. The crew could feel it. This was no ordinary find. The doorway had been sealed for ages, but now it was being uncovered, revealing its long-hidden secrets. "Should we open it?" Lyra asked, glancing at Zarek. He hesitated, his hand hovering over the door. His instincts screamed at him to stop, to leave and never return. But his curiosity, the same drive that had brought him to this planet, pushed him forward. He motioned for the crew to clear away the final remnants of debris. "Yes," he said firmly, "we open it." With a heavy heart, Zarek placed his hand on the door. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a loud, grinding sound, the door slowly began to slide open, revealing a cold, empty space beyond. The air inside was thick, heavy with the weight of centuries of neglect. But as they stepped inside, the crew was struck by an overwhelming wave of energy, something unlike anything they had ever felt before. The walls were covered in more strange markings, the same glowing symbols they had found outside. But there was something else, something far more significant. A massive, dormant machine, its purpose long forgotten, waiting for someone to reactivate it. Zarek's heart raced as he approached the machine. Its design was sleek and elegant, yet terrifying all at once. It looked like a weapon, but one unlike anything any species had ever created. Its sheer size suggested it was meant for a purpose far greater than mere combat. "What is this?" Lyra whispered, her voice trembling. Zarek swallowed hard, his mind racing. "I don't know," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "But I have a feeling we're about to find out." This discovery on Zith had set the stage for something much larger than any of them had anticipated. It was the first clue, the initial step toward unveiling the galaxy's most significant secret. As Zarek and his crew stood in the dark chamber, one fact became painfully clear. Humanity was about to be dragged into something far beyond their understanding. The galaxy had made a grave mistake, and soon they would all realize just how powerful Earth and its people truly were. The air in the ancient structure felt heavy, almost as though time itself had frozen the very walls. As Zarek and his crew ventured deeper into the chamber, their flashlights cutting through the dusty darkness, they realized they were walking through a history far older than anything any species in the galaxy had known. Lyra's hands trembled slightly as she scanned the walls. The glowing symbols flickered like tiny stars, and with every few steps, the energy readings grew stronger, filling the crew with a sense of both awe and dread. It became clear this place had not been built by any species known to the galaxy today. They ventured into a large central hall where towering statues stood against the walls. Though the features had been worn down over time, the shapes were unmistakable. 2 arms, 2 legs, a head with deep, thoughtful eyes. The statues resembled humans. A heavy silence fell over the group as they took in the sight. How could this be? In every star map, every history book, and every record kept by the known species, Earth and its people were nothing but a recent discovery, a young race, barely beginning to explore the stars. Yet here, on a planet untouched for millions of years, they had found clear evidence that humans, or something disturbingly similar, had once ruled. "Captain," Lyra whispered, her voice shaking, not out of fear, but from the immense weight of the truth now staring them in the face. This can't be possible." Zarek forced himself to stay calm, though cold sweat ran down his back. Deep down, he knew that some of the most impossible discoveries were the ones that changed everything. He stepped closer to one of the statues, brushing the dust from its surface. As he did, a low hum filled the chamber, and the floor beneath them trembled. A hidden mechanism activated, and slowly the floor began to split open in the center of the hall. The crew jumped back, weapons drawn instinctively, but Zarek motioned for them to stand down. Whatever was happening had been waiting for millennia, and he didn't think it was a trap. It felt more like an invitation. From the opening in the floor, a pedestal rose, and upon it sat a device, a smooth black object, pulsing faintly with an energy that felt ancient, like the quiet breath of a god waking from slumber. "What is it?" Lyra asked, stepping forward cautiously. "I don't know," Zarek murmured, shaking his head, "but it feels old. Very old." Lyra scanned the device, but immediately her equipment malfunctioned. Sparks flew and the screen went blank. The same thing happened to every piece of technology they had. This device didn't want to be analyzed by modern machines. It was Lyra who realized the truth first. "Captain," she said, her voice trembling, "this technology, it's beyond anything we have. It's beyond anything anyone has. Zarek nodded slowly, a grim realization creeping over him. And it's human. The implications were staggering. If humans had created this, then the history of the galaxy was a lie. The true rulers, the original masters of the galaxy, were not the great alien empires that ruled today. They were humans, forgotten, buried, and now beginning to stir. "We need to get this back to the ship," Zarek said, his voice hard with the weight of understanding. This was no longer just an archaeological find, it was a weapon, or something far greater, something that could shake the very foundations of the galaxy. They carefully secured the device and prepared to leave, but as they exited the ancient structure, Zarek felt the weight of something watching them. Not from his crew, but from the shadows beyond the walls. Ancient presences stirred, awakened by their discovery. In his heart, he knew that disturbing these old ghosts could bring far more than just knowledge. When they emerged into the pale light of Zith's sky, the planet no longer felt empty. It felt alive, dangerous, as if something deep beneath the surface was now awake and watching them. Far beyond the reach of human sensors, vast fleets moved silently across the expanse of space, armies assembled, and secret plans were set into motion. The galaxy had just learned that humanity possessed something with the power to reshape everything, and they were not about to let it remain in the hands of humans without a fight. As the Starborn, battered but still strong, sailed through the asteroid field, Captain Zarek and his crew caught their breath, knowing this small victory was but a brief reprieve before a far greater storm would descend upon them. The ancient device secured in their cargo vault had become a signal, an unmistakable beacon calling out to enemies they had never known existed. In the quiet hum of the ship, Lyra stood alone before the containment chamber, her hands trembling as she watched the device pulse with a soft blue light. It glowed rhythmically, in tune with her own heartbeat. When they first discovered it on the desolate, forgotten world, it had been inert, just a forgotten piece of technology. But now it was alive, changing, and somehow watching them. Captain Zarek entered the chamber, his boots echoing on the cold metal floor. The glow was unmistakable, and he frowned. Deep down, something was awakening within the device, something far more ancient and powerful than they could comprehend. "What's happening to it?" Zarek asked, his voice low. Even though he was a seasoned captain who had faced pirates, alien beasts, and countless battles, standing before the device made him feel small, insignificant, as though he were a child staring at something far beyond his understanding. Lyra shook her head slowly, her eyes wide with a mix of awe and fear. I think it knows we're here." Suddenly, a deep hum filled the air, vibrating through the walls of the ship. The device, which had once appeared to be a simple piece of forgotten machinery, began to shift, opening slowly like a flower in bloom. Smooth metal layers shifted apart, revealing strange symbols and a bright, spinning core of light at its center. A powerful pull surged through the minds of the crew, an overwhelming wave of emotions and impressions. It wasn't speaking in words, but in feelings, strength, wisdom, battles fought across the stars, long before Earth had even been formed. For a brief moment, everyone stood frozen, caught in the awe of it all. Then the ship's alarm blared again, shattering the trance. Lyra rushed to the bridge with Zarek close behind. The sensors showed an approaching fleet, a massive multi-species force united with one purpose: to seize the device before it could fully awaken. "We can't outrun them this time," Lyra said, her voice tight with both fear and determination. The enemy was closing in fast, and they had only minutes to act. Zarek studied the sensor readings, his mind racing. No amount of clever flying would save them, and fighting them head-on would be suicide. Just as he was about to order the crew to prepare for a last stand, something incredible happened. The ship's lights flickered and the device's glow spread through the floor. latching onto the ship's systems like living tendrils of energy. For a terrifying moment, Zarek feared the device was attacking, taking control of the Starborn. But then, the engines roared to life, powered by an energy they had never known before. The shields hardened to an unimaginable strength, far beyond the ship's original design. And most shockingly, new weapons, ones no human had ever built, came online across the ship. The device, it's upgrading the ship, Lyra gasped. Her hands flew over the controls, reading impossible data flashing across her screens. Weapons with energy levels off the charts, shields strong enough to withstand a supernova's blast, engines capable of jumping across entire galaxies in a blink. Zarek's heart raced as he realized the true significance of the device. It wasn't just an ancient relic, it was a gift, or perhaps a test left by ancient beings who once ruled the galaxy, now choosing humanity as their successors without anyone ever realizing it. The enemy fleet was closing in, their weapons locking onto the Starborn. Confident they had trapped the humans, they prepared to strike. But Zarek smiled grimly. He knew something they didn't. Humanity wasn't weak anymore. Now they carried the legacy of something far older and greater than anything the galaxy had seen in thousands of years. Let's show them what happens when you wake the oldest power in the galaxy, Zarek said, gripping the controls tightly. And with that, the Starborn surged forward, its newly awakened weapons lighting up the darkness, cutting through the enemy fleet like a knife through cloth. The alien commanders, stunned and terrified, realized too late that they hadn't been hunting prey. They had awakened predators. As the enemy ships burned and exploded around them, Zarek knew the war was far from over. Greater forces were stirring beyond the stars, and soon the entire galaxy would turn its eyes toward Earth, toward humanity, and toward the ancient power now in their hands. The flames of the destroyed enemy fleet still burned in the darkness of space as the Starborn raced back toward Earth, carrying not just the crew but the awakened device, now fused into their ship like a living heart. Captain Zarek stood on the bridge, watching the stars blur past, knowing that their fight had only just begun. Every major power in the galaxy would soon be coming for them. The message had spread like wildfire, carried by the few survivors of the battle. Humanity had found something ancient, powerful, and beyond imagination. And for the first time in centuries, the galaxy's empires felt fear. Fear of a small blue planet they had long considered weak and insignificant. In the grand halls of the Zether Dominion, the High Lords gathered in panic, their scaled faces twisted in anger and fear, arguing over how to crush humanity before the device could turn them into an unstoppable force. But none of them could agree. For deep down they all remembered the ancient warnings written in forgotten ruins, the warnings that spoke of the first race, the ones who had shaped the stars themselves. And now it seemed the first race wasn't extinct after all. On the metal-clad world of Veltrax, the machine overlords ran endless simulations, calculating probabilities, trying to find a way to defeat humanity. But every simulation ended the same way. Earth rising, not just surviving, but conquering. The cold logic of the machines knew it was true. A new era was beginning, and it would not belong to them. Meanwhile, deep in the Council of 12, the wisest and oldest species in the galaxy debated desperately, sending secret messages to agents near Earth, ordering them to prepare for immediate action. They knew that if they didn't stop humanity now, it would be too late. Back aboard the Starborn, the crew gathered in the main hall. The strange blue glow from the device now pulsed through every wall, every control. Zarek looked at the tired but determined faces of his crew, knowing that no one else in the galaxy truly understood what was happening. But they did. "This isn't just about us," Zarek said, his voice steady but filled with the weight of everything they had seen. "This is about all of Earth, every human alive. The galaxy is coming at us with everything it has. We either rise together or we fall alone." Lyra stepped forward, holding a small crystal shard taken from the device. She explained that the device had given them more than just new weapons and stronger ships. It had given them knowledge, ancient knowledge stored in ways no computer could understand. And if they could unlock it, they could awaken powers on Earth that had been sleeping since before history began. The crew agreed without hesitation. Even though they were scared, even though the road ahead seemed almost impossible, they knew one thing. They were human, and humans had never been the type to kneel or surrender, not to nature, not to war, and certainly not to alien empires. As Earth came into view, a beautiful blue and white marble against the blackness of space, Zarek sent a message to every human leader, soldier, scientist, and thinker, warning them of the storm that was coming. Humanity wasn't just fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting for their place as the true heirs to the stars. Across the world, secret bunkers were reopened, old weapons upgraded with the knowledge from the device, and new armies were formed, not just of soldiers but of pilots, engineers, scientists, and dreamers, all united by one idea. No matter how big, how powerful, or how ancient the enemy might be, humanity would not go quietly into the dark. New ships, faster and stronger than anything humanity had ever dreamed of, began to rise across Earth's skies. The world that had once seemed small and weak now shone with a terrifying light. But in the cold depths of space, the enemy fleets were already gathering. Millions of warriors, machines, and monsters all pointed toward one target, Earth. Zarek watched as the first signs of the enemy appeared on the edge of Earth's system, tiny flashes of light on the scanners. He knew the final battle was coming, the one that would decide not just the fate of humanity, but the future of the entire galaxy. And with a grim smile, he whispered, "Let them come. We're ready." The galaxy's mistake was clear now, and the real war had just begun. As the enemy fleets surged forward, each ship brimming with weapons powerful enough to destroy planets, they didn't realize they were no longer facing the weak humans they once mocked. They were facing something far older, far stronger, and far more dangerous than anything they had ever known. From the mountains, from the oceans, from hidden bunkers deep underground, Earth's defenses awakened. Not just missiles and lasers, but ancient technologies reawakened. Weapons that bent light, shifted gravity, and tore holes through solid matter with silent fury. And when the first wave of alien ships entered Earth's orbit, they were met not by fear, but by a storm of fire and light that tore their fleets apart before they could even land. Captain Zarek, standing on the bridge of the Starborn, led the charge. His ship, now more alive than ever, glowed with energy that no enemy weapon could pierce. When the enemy flagship, a massive Titan, opened fire, Zarek ordered a single shot. The Titan exploded in 1,000 burning pieces, and the alien commanders, stunned and terrified, realized too late that they were no longer hunting prey. They were facing predators. Across the Earth, humanity fought with a fury the galaxy had never seen before. Jets streaked through the skies, tanks hovered above the ground, and soldiers wearing armor forged from forgotten secrets stood against monsters 10 times their size, never giving an inch. Every human knew they were not just fighting for survival, they were fighting to claim what was rightfully theirs. As the final enemy fleets were crushed, Earth stood proud and shining, its skies filled with human ships. Its people were stronger and more united than ever before. Across the stars, whispers spread like wildfire. The first race had returned, not as ancient spirits or broken memories, but as warriors who would shape the galaxy's future with their own hands. And on Earth, Captain Zarek stood at the highest tower of the United Earth Command, looking out at the horizon, where human ships now patrolled not just their planet, but the edges of their solar system. He smiled quietly, knowing that this was just the beginning. Beside him, Lyra held the crystal core of the ancient device, now fully awakened, its light pulsing like a heartbeat. She whispered, "The stars are waiting, Captain." What do we do now? Zarek turned, his voice steady, filled with certainty. Now, we build something greater than anyone ever dreamed. Now, we make sure the galaxy never forgets who we are. And so humanity reached out, not in fear but in power. Explorers, builders, warriors, and dreamers ventured into the stars, claiming not just survival, but their rightful place among the ancient and mighty forces of the galaxy. Because now the galaxy's mistake was clear, and the truth would never be forgotten again.